any and everywhere you go, in and out of stores, homeless.
The State Treasurer has warned Sydney's housing crisis could produce a city like San Francisco. Our homeless numbers are up 23% in a year.
America's cities may shine on the surface, but just below that facade, thousands struggle for survival without a place to call home. For countless individuals, life on the streets means constant battles against hunger, exposure, and fear. And as the crisis grows from the vast street camps stretching across Los Angeles to the crowded shelters of New York, it's not only affecting the homeless, but also reshaping communities in ways we can't ignore. But what drives this growing epidemic? Join us as we reveal the 15 US cities facing the highest homelessness and the reasons behind it. Number 15. Washington, D.C. First up on our list is the capital of the United States. Known for its iconic monuments, yet hiding a surprising struggle beneath the grandeur. Early 2024, nearly 4,922 people in D.C. were homeless, and that's about 7 out of every 1,000 residents. And while this represents a 23% decrease since 2020, the challenge is still intense. The high cost of living is a major factor here. In D.C., rent averages more than $2,000 a month, making affordable housing feel like a distant dream for many. Adding to the pressure, over 13,900 asylum seekers have recently arrived, often without permanent housing, stretching resources even thinner. Behind these numbers are real people with real stories. Take Monica Diaz and Pete Etheridge, who, along with their dog Sassy, lived on the streets for over 2 years. Their story caught attention, leading to a GoFundMe campaign that raised over $40,000 and helped them secure a stable home. Then there's Robert Blood, who found support at the Minneapolis Central Library. Here, social worker Andrea Hanson-Miller assists homeless people with essentials and housing connections. With her help, Robert transitioned to stable housing. Washington, D.C. is fighting back with initiatives like Homeward D.C., along with a $15 million grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development aimed at reducing youth homelessness. Non-profits like Pathways to Housing D.C. also work tirelessly, offering housing and health services to those in need. Yet challenges persist. Community resistance to new shelters and limited funding slow down progress. While D.C. sees hopeful progress, Boston's battle with housing costs remains a steep climb. Number 14. Boston, Massachusetts. Boston, Massachusetts is a city where history and innovation intertwine, yet thousands lack a place to call home. Recent estimates suggest that over 5,200 people are experiencing homelessness in this city. That's about 8 people out of every 1,000 residents, even after a 15% decrease since 2020. Boston's high cost of living is a huge factor here. This city's housing market ranks among the most expensive in the country, with median rents soaring above $2,500 a month. For many, this financial strain makes housing stability a dream that's just out of reach. The reality of this crisis comes to life through stories like Damon's. After spending years on the streets, he finally found stability through Friends of Boston's Homeless. Damon expressed his appreciation to the establishment by stating that without them, he couldn't be the good father he is today. Stories like his show the powerful impact of support, but also the deep need for it. Boston takes the crisis seriously, conducting an annual homeless census every January. Looking ahead, Boston has proposed a $44 million grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to support homelessness programs in 2025. Yet the challenges persist. Some communities resist new shelter projects, and limited funding complicates Boston's path forward. Leaving Boston's historic streets, we head to the Windy City, where the fight for housing stability reaches new heights. Number 13. Chicago, Illinois. In the heart of the Midwest, Chicago's homelessness crisis has reached new heights. The homeless population has risen by 14% since 2020, now standing at about 6,139 people. That's more than 2 out of every 1,000 residents without a stable home. This crisis has many layers. One significant factor is the influx of asylum seekers. More than 13,900 have arrived in Chicago without permanent housing, stretching the city's resources thin. Economic divides and a lack of affordable housing only add to the problem, making it harder for residents to find and keep stable homes. Take, for instance, Maxica Williams, a Chicago native whose journey has been nothing short of inspiring. After surviving cancer, she found herself without stable housing. Now Maxica is back on her feet and has become a powerful voice in her community, advocating for others in similar situations. Then there's Mara Fajardo, who faced homelessness while attending the University of Illinois at Chicago, but persevered, graduating despite the odds. Chicago is actively responding to this crisis. A recent grant of $15 million from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development aims to tackle youth homelessness in particular. Local groups like Street Samaritans are also stepping up, providing essential resources and support to those in need. But the challenges continue. Community resistance to new shelters and limited funding complicate Chicago's ability to keep up with growing demand. Leaving Chicago's challenges, Portland's soaring rents and limited options turn housing into a luxury. Number 12. Portland, Oregon. Imagine living in a city where the cost of living skyrockets as affordable housing vanishes. Looks unreal, but this is the situation in Portland, Oregon. The numbers tell a harsh reality. Since 2020, Portland's homeless population has surged, with recent counts estimating 6,297 people experiencing homelessness. This means that nearly 10 out of every 1,000 residents are without a stable home. The primary factor contributing to this crisis is the surge in housing costs. Since 2016, rents in Portland have increased by more than 40%, making it challenging for many residents to afford housing. This situation has forced individuals like Vicky Smith, who spent years living on the side of Interstate 5 before receiving assistance to secure housing. Mental health and addiction issues also play significant roles in Portland's homelessness crisis. Many individuals in the homeless community struggle with substance abuse and untreated mental health conditions, which hinder their ability to secure and maintain housing. For example, Corinne Penning experienced homelessness due to drug use and domestic abuse, but has since transitioned to a stable living situation and now works to help others facing similar challenges. In response to the growing crisis, Portland has implemented initiatives such as safe rest villages and new shelters to provide temporary housing and support services. However, with rising living costs and a housing market favoring high-income renters, the city continues to face challenges in addressing homelessness effectively. Portland may face high rents, but in San Francisco, housing affordability is almost mythical. Number 11. San Francisco. While San Francisco is known for its stunning Golden Gate views and vibrant tech scene, it's also battling a serious housing crisis. As of early 2024, San Francisco's homeless population was 7,582, with about 9.4 people per 1,000 residents living without stable shelter. This might sound better than it was in 2020, with a 7% decrease, but the reality on the streets tells a different story. One of the main drivers here is the city's astronomical cost of living. San Francisco's housing prices are some of the highest in the nation, with the median home price hovering around $1 million, putting even renting out of reach for many residents. For those who can find a rental, average monthly costs are close to $4,000, making affordable housing almost mythical for low-income earners. It's no wonder that many end up on the streets, caught between rising expenses and limited affordable options. Mental health and addiction challenges also play a big part, with San Francisco's health services struggling to meet the demand. The city has attempted various approaches to address homelessness, like the navigation centers, that offer temporary housing and resources. Still, these centers can only do so much with limited funding and space. Local nonprofits and community groups have stepped in, offering food, shelter, and health services, but they too are stretched thin. Leaving the foggy bay of San Francisco, we head to the neon lights of Las Vegas, revealing a hidden reality in Sin City. Number 10. Las Vegas, Nevada. Beneath the neon glow of Las Vegas lies a stark reality, a growing homelessness crisis. As of January 25, 2024, the city reported 7,906 individuals experiencing homelessness, marking a 20% increase from the previous year and a 36% rise since 2022. Several factors contribute to this surge. The city's economic rebound post-pandemic has led to soaring housing costs, with rents increasing by 40% since 2016. This escalation has priced many residents out of their homes. Additionally, the influx of investors purchasing approximately 15% of the housing stock has further strained the availability of affordable housing. The demographic most affected includes women, African Americans, and individuals aged 35 to 44. For instance, DJ, a 30-year-old Las Vegas native, once earned a living creating art on pedestrian bridges. However, recent ordinances have restricted such activities, leaving him without income and shelter. Similarly, Dale and his disabled mother were evicted from their apartment and now reside in the city's flood channels, illustrating the dire circumstances many face. Efforts to address the issue include the opening of the Clark County Navigation Center, a former Motel 6 converted into temporary housing for up to 70 people. Additionally, the vintage Safari Motel has been transformed into transitional housing. Despite these initiatives, the demand for shelter far exceeds the available resources, underscoring the need for comprehensive solutions to this multifaceted problem. In Las Vegas, rising costs add pressure, but in Sacramento, decades of housing shortages keep stability elusive. Number 9. Sacramento, California. Sacramento's homelessness crisis has roots stretching back years, but the numbers we're seeing now are staggering. Between 2020 and 2024, the city's homeless population soared by 68%. Today, there are an estimated 9,281 unhoused people here, meaning that for every 1,000 residents, more than 17 are living without stable shelter. One key driver is Sacramento's skyrocketing cost of living. As people move from pricier cities like San Francisco, Rents have surged, with average monthly prices now around $2,000. This has priced many locals out of stable housing, forcing more people into homelessness. Housing scarcity compounds this, with affordable options lagging far behind demand. Mental health and addiction issues also play a big part, and Sacramento's resources in these areas are stretched thin. For many, finding support is a maze with no clear path. Local shelters reach capacity nightly, and though the city has tried solutions like sanctioned camping sites and tiny home communities, these efforts barely scratch the surface. What makes Sacramento's crisis especially challenging is the resistance from some neighborhoods to new shelters and housing projects. When the city proposes a facility to help those without homes, it often faces strong pushback from residents who worry about the impact on their communities. This tension slows down efforts to build much-needed housing and support services, leaving officials racing to keep up with the growing crisis. From the heart of California, we journey to Phoenix, Arizona, where rising temperatures mirror the rising challenges faced by the homeless. Number 8. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix, Arizona has seen a big jump in its homeless population, now sitting at 9,642 people. From 2020 to 2024, this number rose by 30%, and now roughly 6 people per 1,000 residents have no place to call home. So what's causing this surge? It starts with housing costs. Phoenix's rapid growth means rent has gone up fast. Finding a place is tough, especially when the cost of a modest one-bedroom hovers around $1,400 a month. In response to this growing crisis, the city stepped in with enormous funding. Phoenix allocated almost $50 million in 2022 to fund emergency shelters across the city. This includes 100 new beds in a sprung structure at the Human Services Campus, a facility known for helping the homeless with everything from meals to healthcare. But the need is still greater than the resources. A count in 2023 found nearly half of Maricopa County's homeless population were unsheltered, and many face extreme heat, which makes day-to-day survival even harder. Community organizations are a vital part of this fight. Central Arizona Shelter Services, or CASS, works daily to provide food, safe spaces, and job support. Still, the homelessness rate keeps growing, meaning solutions will need to go beyond just shelter beds. They'll need to tackle the root causes, like housing costs and economic instability, to truly help Phoenix's most vulnerable get back on their feet. Moving from Phoenix's intense heat, we now travel back to California, where Oakland faces one of the highest homelessness rates in the state. Number 7. Oakland, California. About 9,759 people in Oakland don't have a place to call home, giving it an incredibly high homelessness rate, about 23 out of every 1,000 people living there. From 2020 to 2024, this number jumped by 20%. A key driver? The relentless rise in housing costs. The price tag for a one-bedroom rental now tops $2,500 per month, pushing many lifelong Oakland residents out of their homes and onto the streets. In response, the city launched the Community Cabins Project, introducing small cabin-style shelters to offer people a safer alternative to living on the streets. Built in clusters, these cabins give residents a sense of security and community. But with demand skyrocketing, the city went even further, securing state funding to turn 8 motels into shelters, creating over 400 new units. it's not just individuals who are affected. Families with children make up a notable part of Oakland's homeless population, facing challenges that extend beyond just finding shelter. Programs like Keep Oakland Housed have helped thousands with rental assistance, but even with these efforts, the city can't keep up with demand. Racial disparities are striking here too. Although Black residents make up less than a quarter of Oakland's population, they account for over half of the homeless community. This staggering gap highlights deeper systemic issues that can't be solved by temporary housing alone. As Oakland confronts its rising homelessness crisis, San Jose shows that even high-tech hubs aren't immune. Number 6. San Jose, California. Imagine a city where innovation thrives, yet thousands sleep without shelter. In San Jose, California, the heart of Silicon Valley, approximately 9,900 individuals experience homelessness, translating to about 10 out of every 1,000 residents. The roots of this issue are multifaceted. San Jose's housing market is among the nation's most expensive, with median home prices soaring above $1 million. This surge has outpaced income growth, making affordable housing increasingly scarce. A two-bedroom apartment often rents for over $2,500 per month, placing it beyond the reach of many working families. Economic disparities further worsen the problem. The tech boom has created a wealth gap, leaving low-income residents vulnerable. Job losses, medical emergencies, or unexpected expenses can quickly lead to housing instability. The COVID-19 pandemic intensified these challenges. Job losses and health crises pushed more individuals into homelessness. In response, San Jose implemented measures like eviction moratoriums and rent freezes to provide temporary relief. However, these were stopgap solutions to a deep-rooted problem. Addressing homelessness requires innovative approaches. In 2024, billionaire developer John A. Sobrato leased a 2-acre property for $1 per year to establish a tiny home village. This initiative aims to provide rent-free housing for approximately 150 individuals, offering not just shelter, but also counseling and job training to facilitate a transition to permanent housing. San Jose's efforts extend beyond housing. The city collaborates with non-profits to distribute emergency cash and rent assistance, preventing evictions and keeping families housed. Additionally, programs like Project Homekey convert underutilized hotels into interim housing, offering immediate relief to those in need. After San Jose, we turn to Denver, where more people than ever are facing life without a home. Number 5. Denver, Colorado. In the last few years, Denver has seen a surprising rise in the number of people without homes. Between 2020 and 2024, the city's homeless population shot up by 65%. Today, there are just over 10,000 people in Denver without a stable place to sleep each night. That's about 14 people out of every 1,000. One major reason is housing costs. Average rent in Denver has skyrocketed, with a typical one-bedroom now going for more than $1,500 a month. For many, that's simply out of reach, especially for those with low or fixed incomes. Add the impact of the pandemic, which led to job losses and financial instability for thousands, and it's clear why so many have been pushed out of their homes. But there's more to it. Denver's homeless population is diverse and includes a significant number of people of color. Black residents, for instance, make up around 6% of the general population, but represent more than 20% of the homeless community. Denver officials are trying to respond. In December 2023, the city released an action plan to help bring 1,000 people off the streets and to build nearly 1,700 affordable housing units by the end of 2024. Shelters and community organizations like the Denver Rescue Mission are also stepping in, offering meals, beds, and programs to help people get back on their feet. Still, for everyone Denver manages to house, more fall into homelessness, showing that the city has a long road ahead. Addressing this crisis will require a lot more than just building shelters. It's about creating lasting solutions that address all the reasons people end up homeless in the first place. As Denver tries to tackle its crisis, San Diego's high costs make this issue worse for thousands of people. Number 4. San Diego, California. With over 10,000 people living without homes in this sunny city, San Diego has one of the highest homelessness rates in the country, around 7 people for every 1,000 residents. The numbers don't lie, and they've only been climbing, increasing by a staggering 34% from 2020 to 2024. One big reason behind this issue is the city's sky-high living costs. San Diego isn't cheap. In fact, rent and property prices are often out of reach for many. Imagine trying to afford a place to stay when even the most basic housing costs seem to be soaring by the month. And then, in the past year alone, San Diego saw over 13,000 people newly arrive, with many ending up right on the streets. This massive wave only adds pressure to an already strained housing situation. San Diego's homeless population includes a large number of older adults. In 2023, about 30% were over 55, and nearly half of these people are facing homelessness for the first time. These are often seniors on fixed incomes who just can't keep up with the rising costs of rent, food, and essentials. Racial inequality is another harsh reality here. Although Black individuals make up less than 6% of San Diego's population, they represent over 22% of the homeless community. City officials have been scrambling for solutions. They recently added 360 new shelter beds specifically for veterans and the elderly. Yet, for every 10 people that find housing, 16 more become homeless, showing just how intense the problem has become. San Diego may have rising rates, but in Seattle, these rates clash with tech growth, leaving many behind. Number 3. Seattle, Washington. Seattle, Washington, a city celebrated for its tech scene and the iconic Space Needle, is also facing a homelessness crisis that's hard to ignore. Today, around 14,149 people are homeless in Seattle, a stark 20% increase since 2020. That's nearly 19 people out of every 1,000 without a stable place to live, and the reasons behind it are complex. In just a decade, Seattle's housing costs skyrocketed. With more tech companies moving in and a population boom, the city added 67,000 new housing units between 2010 and 2020. But even that couldn't keep up with demand, leaving countless people without affordable options. Imagine a median rent price that just keeps climbing. It's no wonder so many working residents are struggling to stay housed. And then there's the economic divide. For a city that thrives on high-paying tech jobs, not everyone's paycheck has kept pace with Seattle's steep cost of living. Many residents are simply priced out, living paycheck to paycheck with little room for unexpected expenses. Seattle has tried to combat this issue. A few years ago, the city joined forces with King County to create the Regional Homelessness Authority, aiming to streamline policies and services for the homeless. Additionally, Mayor Bruce Harrell's One Seattle Homelessness Action Plan has been actively working to bring people indoors and create places for people to live. But the crisis is far from solved. The city's shelters are overcrowded, affordable housing is scarce, and deep-rooted issues continue to push people onto the streets. Seattle's growth leaves some struggling, but Los Angeles' high demand shows the crisis on an even larger scale. Number 2. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles, a city known for Hollywood, palm trees, and endless sunshine, also carries the heavy title of having one of the nation's highest homelessness rates. With an estimated 71,320 people living without stable housing, Los Angeles struggles with a crisis that goes deeper than meets the eye. Why? The reasons are as layered as the city itself, involving sky-high rents, a lack of affordable housing, and systemic economic inequalities. First, let's talk about housing. In Los Angeles, the cost of living is among the highest in the country, with median rents surging by over 65% since 2010. This skyrocketing rent outpaces income growth by miles, pushing thousands to the brink. Many simply cannot afford to live in a city that sees rent prices soar faster than wage increases. Between 2020 and early 2024 alone, the homeless population saw a 12% spike as more people found themselves priced out of their homes. Adding to this issue, Los Angeles has faced an affordable housing drought for years. The city needs at least 500,000 affordable housing units to meet the current demand. Without a reasonable number of homes for those with lower incomes, Los Angeles leaves many struggling families and individuals with no options. But there's more. Over 30% of residents live near or below the poverty line. For these people, one setback, a medical bill, job loss, or family emergency, can mean losing their home. And for those already facing housing instability, mental health and addiction issues create additional barriers to finding stable housing. As of recent reports, a significant portion of the homeless population in Los Angeles is grappling with these challenges, making it incredibly difficult for them to get back on their feet without serious intervention. The city has poured billions into solutions, including Mayor Karen Bass's Inside Safe initiative, launched in 2023, which has already moved thousands into temporary housing. However, with such a high demand for help and a complicated shelter system marred by inefficiencies, these initiatives are like a drop in the bucket compared to what's needed. From Los Angeles, let's go to New York City, where more people are homeless than anywhere else in the US. Number 1. New York City, New York. New York City, known for its iconic skyline and bustling streets, faces the country's most challenging homelessness crisis, with an estimated 88,025 people experiencing homelessness. That translates to roughly 10.6 people per 1,000 residents, a rate that has climbed by a staggering 13% from 2020 to 2024. So, what's going on in the city that never sleeps? For one, affordable housing is nearly impossible to come by. Over the past decades, New York has seen its stock of affordable housing dwindle as real estate prices continue to climb. From 1996 to 2017, the city lost about 1.1 million units of affordable housing, displacing thousands. With rent prices continuously skyrocketing, many people who once managed to afford an apartment now face the stark reality of homelessness. Economic disparity is another key factor. New York City, with its soaring living costs, creates a sharp divide between the wealthy and low-income earners. The average monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan was over $3,000 in 2023. Compare that to the stagnant wages many workers face, and it's easy to see why so many struggle to make ends meet. Another issue: mental health and substance abuse challenges. An alarming portion of the homeless population in New York suffers from mental health conditions and substance dependencies, making it harder for them to find and maintain stable housing. Many shelters aren't equipped to provide the comprehensive support these individuals need, leaving them trapped in a cycle of homelessness and hardship. The situation is equally concerning for unsheltered individuals who seek refuge on the streets, in subway stations, or other public spaces. The city's Homeless Outreach Population Estimate (HOPE) survey in early 2024 counted approximately 4,140 individuals experiencing unsheltered homelessness. The shelter system, meant to be a safe haven, has its own problems. With an estimated $4 billion invested, reports have revealed mismanagement, fraud, and abuse within the system. Nepotism, self-dealing, and a lack of oversight have drained resources that could have been life-changing for those in desperate need. New York City is fighting an uphill battle, launching new initiatives and affordable housing projects. But the truth is, real progress needs time, commitment, and accountability. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.